want a better life? Let's make it real. This is a better life. From scars to stars, from pain to bulletproof, to reach a better life. A better life with you. Talking news, pop culture life, love and scandal, heart to heart. No playing small, we rise, we fall, we laugh, we do it all. A better life is one brave call to reach a better life. Let's build a better life. Let's build a better life. A better life to reach a better life.
Hello, hello. We are back. Back. I'm saying back. Guys, I do not feel well. If you saw me yesterday, you saw me sneezing a bunch. I don't, I was sneezing some. I just do not feel like my best self this week. So I blame the holidays. I don't know. We had really wonderful, chill holidays, but I don't know, just eating poorly, I think, and just my physical body's going. Maybe it's revolting and just wants a longer holiday. Anyway, let's see. I need a shortcut name to call you. I know I keep telling you alphabet JKHGFHCGDSC. I need a short name to call you. So, anyway, you're saying you don't know what the episode is about today, but reference cats, a common use for fortune telling in Kabbalist magic and Egyptian sacrifice, and the goddess. That's a lot of information. I have Ra, I have horse. Yeah, you know what? From yesterday's, welcome, Robert. Like sand through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives. Please like the stream. Also, every once in a while, when you think about it in the chat, next to the chat, hit the heart button so it gets into the algorithm, and then YouTube thinks people want to see. So that's helpful. Letters. I like that because I was like, alphabet is just too many syllables. I like letters. Letters are good and they're helpful for communication, right? Oh, goodness. Anyway, so I'm feeling cruddy. I'm feeling really congested and just not very well. So, if I seem different and sort of out of it, I mean, more so than usual, that would be why. So after yesterday's episode on Candace, where she was talking about this oracle, I don't remember if she specifically said oracle, but this older Jewish guy, right? He was a spiritual advisor to Charlie. Charlie also had security around him before he was even somebody. He couldn't go anywhere without security. And at the time, Candace is telling us that at the time she didn't think a lot of it. It registered. She just didn't, excuse me, think a lot of it, right? And then so now as she's looking back on texts and the life in review, right? Looking backward, that she thinks that's really strange, and it is really strange. So this was in Chicago. It's strange that he would have so much security around him when he wasn't that prominent yet. According to her, he was also seeing this spiritual leader who was an older Jewish man who sent him dark messages, as Charlie described it, as really dark messages, right? He would send them, and he would basically was kept implanting and brainwashing, in my opinion and in my words, brainwashing Charlie that he was here to die for humankind, and that he was going to die young, and all of this to me screams brainwashing. So yesterday I'm like, was he implanted? Like thoughts were implanted. So as I've been chatting online and looking at stuff online today, people are suggesting that he was remembering his like hypnotic MK Ultra type programming, right? So I wonder how long this these sessions with this guy go. I would love if she would provide us a name, who that person was. So yeah, I mean, it was very interesting. So I went on to TikTok, and there's this person, Threat to Democracy on TikTok, that had posted something similar a day or two ago about Charlie being groomed. So I'm going to share my screen and share that with you. Help me. I'm going to try to keep track of time to make sure we don't miss, I don't want to miss Candace's start, because she says she's going to reveal her theories of what happened and why, which is interesting. And I'm wondering the timing and what buttoned that up for her enough to be able to be confident in sharing what her actual theory is, because we haven't really heard that, right? We've heard a lot of stuff. I'm partial to the battery case, microphone theory. If we have time, we'll take a look at that. If not beforehand, then we'll go in afterwards. That Ian Carroll and The Real Baron had gone over that on their podcast. But here, let me share my screen. Let's go TikTok, Threat to Democracy. So we'll go here. Put me here, and I'm going to play this over for you. So take a listen.
Was Charlie Kirk groomed at a young age, specifically like around 18? Yes, he was. So here's the thing. Charlie Kirk from Illinois comes to Phoenix. Okay, he's in his teens, comes to Phoenix, 17, 18 years old. Befriends Tyler Boyer. Tyler Boyer then gets him involved in all of these political spheres. Specifically, he brought Charlie up to Sedona, Arizona, where I used to live. Okay, that used to be my district. And introduces him to the Kadars. Kadars are very influential GOP people in the state of Arizona. They live an interesting life. Let's just put it that way. There's something doesn't add up with them either. And I used to hang out with them. I kind of caught on a long time ago. But anyway, so the Kadars housed Charlie Kirk for a couple weeks. They do all the Sedona Red Rock stuff and blah, blah, blah. Apparently Tyler Boyer was up there, but Tyler Boyer was staying with a friend.
So, and remember yesterday, Candace was talking about Tyler Boyer being friends with the Farnsworth, and their whole family go back. Erica Kirk's whole family goes back. So apparently they are also in tight with the Kadar family.
So he wasn't staying at the Kadars. So the Kadars introduced Charlie to more political people, yada, yada, yada. And then they told Charlie that God has a plan for him. And guess who first funded Charlie Kirk? The Kadars.
So I'm wondering if the Kadars, if somebody with the last name Kadar, part of the family, is one of the people perhaps that was helping to brainwash Charlie, although he was seeing that spiritual advisor or the spiritual guru. This was in Chicago, as Candace recalls. But this is interesting that God has a plan, that people are just implanting this over and over and over into his brain.
One of the buildings at the TPUSA campus used to be named after the Kadars. It used to be the Kadar building. It's no longer named after the Kadars. But as an 18-year-old, what do you think is going through a young man's mind at that point with this money to do this mission? You see, I think Charlie was definitely influenced. I think he caught on towards the end of his life, and that's what got him, you know what. But I think he was groomed. He definitely had some sort of form of, I would say, autism. I mean, you can look back through all of his speeches and the way he talks and things like that. Autistic people are very, very intelligent. I have an autistic friend. However, when you get them on one path, they tend to just stick right there.
Okay, thank you very much, Letters. Okay, yeah. So if you guys have heard that there's something in their science that backs up the extrasensory perception of autistic individuals and nonverbal, not all of them, obviously, and generally speaking. And there's the podcast, the telepathy tape, that's on YouTube. It's also wherever other places you find your podcasts, but it talks a lot about this. So, anyways, just a side note.
Okay, and it's hard to take them off. So I think that's what these influential people were doing to him. But when an autistic person goes off the rails and finds a new direction, they tend to just keep going that way. And when Charlie Kirk went off the rails, he went this direction. And anyways, that's my thoughts because I've lived it. I've been around these people, folks. So, Happy New Year, everybody. Was Charlie?
Yeah, so he posted that, it looks like a year ago or a day ago, pardon me, a day ago, and I found that very interesting. There's something else I wanted to play for you guys. It was on Instagram, and it is information about who's on the seat of the board over at TPUSA. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'll have to share, let's see, share a new screen with you. And it's on Instagram. It's my stories here. And let's add to the stage. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this post.
It isn't even TPUSA. The strangest part is the lineage behind it. Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino wrote a book called Mind War while stationed at the Presidio in San Francisco. Not a self-help book, not a political rant, a blueprint for psychological warfare. Mass persuasion, narrative control, cognitive terrain. And Aquino was also an open Satanist. He never hid it, never denied it.
Aquino and his wife, you are a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army.
Correct.
Now, and how does the Army feel about you being head of the Temple of Set?
The Army has known about my religion for the entire span of my Army career, which began in 1968. Mm-hmm. And there was a reasonable amount of curiosity, as there has been all the way along, mm-hmm. with what exactly is this strange and unusual thing. And I've talked about it in much the same way that I've talked here today on your show about it. Mm-hmm. And other than that, the Army has paid very little attention to it, the same as it would to anybody who, say, a follower of Hinduism or of Buddhism or any other slightly unusual religion today.
So you just go about your Army duties and it's fine and mm-hmm. Okay?
Now here's the part people skip past.
Yeah.
Aquino didn't write Mind War alone. His collaborative with retired Major General Paul E. Vallely. Fast forward. Vallely sits on the board at Turning Point USA. So take a step back. Strip away the merch, the slogans, the crowd noise. What is TPUSA actually doing? It's not just debating ideas. It's persuasion at scale, changing minds, moving groups, steering perception. And when the same people tied to a psychological warfare playbook are embedded inside a movement built to shape mass belief, coincidence stops being a useful explanation. This isn't about symbols. This is about methods. Because Mind War doesn't care what flag you wave. It only cares that you don't notice you're waving it. The strangest part isn't Charlie Kirk.
Yeah. Uh, what do y'all make of that? That is, so he's still on the board. My guess is there are other people like that, and I don't think it's just one religion, you guys. I don't think it's just one sect. I think there's a convergence. I've been saying convergence a lot over the past couple of months because I feel like it's all at a convergence right now. And so, let's see, Letter says he helped create the Temple of Set. So I've been digging in and researching. I feel like so many of you start going down the investigative path, and there's so many intersecting lines, and it is so convoluted, and no wonder we haven't been able to figure a lot of things out. But now with the help of crowdsourcing investigations and that, we're in a different era where hopefully we can start getting some actual answers and figuring some things out and connecting the dots together. Hi, Cisco. Let's see. It's an elite group and we ain't in it. No, don't want to be in that. So that's very interesting. I had never heard of this stuff. And the more I research and the deeper I go down, the more I'm learning. It's so ugly. And so anyway, I had made, I don't know, I did post these on YouTube last night. Let me see if I can share my screen here. And go back in, share my screen, share a different screen. I wish I could. Okay. So Charlie Kirk was brainwashed. Okay, so I'm going to add it here. Okay, so let's go here. Candace, she was saying yesterday that this spiritual guide was really interested in Charlie and her relationship, and I think Candace really dodged a bullet, not getting sucked in. And I have questions. I want to ask Candace, like, why did she not go? Why wasn't she interested? I think that's smart. But we just found out some very disturbing information on Candace's show today. I think Charlie was groomed. I think he was groomed from the beginning. He got his start in 2012. He's barely 18, and he goes on to Fox and Friends, okay? He meets Candace, 2018, I think it is, and he's already telling Candace he's not even a big deal. Candace isn't a big deal. Charlie's not a big deal, but he has to have security with him at all times. He tells Candace, why? I'm asking why. They were listening to every move, everything he said, and watching every move he made. Fast forward a little bit, and he has to see this oracle, this older Jewish type man for spiritual reasons in Chicago. So Charlie has dreams from a young age. I believe in dreams. I believe in Candace's dream. I believe dreams are prophetic. I've had them myself from a very young age. I've had experiences. They are real. And if you don't have a spiritual life, I don't expect you to understand. You can fast forward, click out, move on, go your own way, whatever. But so he was being groomed. He was being counseled by this spiritual oracle who was telling him his fate, who was telling him he's going to die, and it's for humanity, and it's all of this. Okay? And what? And then he knows that he's going to die. Something's going on. If you're paying attention, devious things are going on. Devious things are happening. Maniacal things are happening. Charlie Kirk was in the middle of it. TPUSA's in the middle of it. Erica Kirk's in the middle of it. All allegedly, my opinion. If Erica Kirk isn't involved, she's involved in the sort of way of brainwashing like Charlie Kirk was, or she's involved, and she's knowingly involved, and she's continuing this charade. There is something dark. Yeah. So, either she's also, say, a victim, or, yeah, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. if this is happening. So for me, as a normal human being, I can think of no other explanation of that, how a person would do this knowingly. Like, how do you, like Candace was saying yesterday, how do you go about your life and you just go and do these things and you're good with yourself? I mean, it's pretty crazy. So here's the one I did with Candace. Watch my posts on Instagram, go to YouTube and follow me and subscribe there. On TikTok, if you have that. X too. I'm not the best. I'm not the biggest, but I'm a real one. See you there.
This guy pretty much all but confirmed to Charlie that he was going to die. He wouldn't tell him how. He told him, like, but your death will save humanity. This was in 2018, early 2018. Okay. So I wasn't taking much of this conversation too seriously. Like, I just didn't really know what to really make of it. But this man, he also expressed to Charlie a lot of interest in me and Charlie's friendship. And it was like a movie. Charlie had expressed to him that he felt, which I showed you guys, that he was like a time traveler and he had to come back and he had to find me for some reason. And then that man explained to him that we were all prisms of light and that certain prisms of light were meant to refract and others were not meant to refract.
Okay, so I'll have to look up what refracting is. Like, what does that even mean? I didn't get to that part today. Like, what does it even mean that certain individuals are meant to refract and others not? And is that just shining light? They're meant to like shine. Yeah, that guy scares me. I get psychological warfare just looking at him. Dude's eyebrows. What the heck? Yeah, those are crazy, crazy eyebrows. Same thing. Kirk fits the shoe. Yeah. So there's that. And then I came across the video. It was from October 25th, 2025, where Anna Paulina Luna is saying that Erica Kirk lost her kids. So she's talking about how Erica, don't blame Erica Kirk. She's a victim here. She lost her husband and then she said she lost her kids. So, people, that made my ears perk up because I had heard, I think about a month ago, some rumors about some custody issue going on. So I don't know if she literally meant that or if she just messed up. It was a slip of speech and she just didn't, how you can cut off your words like I just did. She just cut off her sentences to say like the kids lost their father or whatever. Okay, so Cisco is helping us with refracting light. It's when a light shines through a substance that breaks up the light into different wavelengths and colors. So I don't even know what that would even mean. So, but anyways, my theory is there's just so much of this. We can't all be crazy, right? We can't all just be thinking this is happening in our world and it's not really happening. I just can't even for the life of me. It seems so, like I said, the lines go everywhere and connect everywhere and it's so convoluted. It's hard to make sense of, but you and you get the feeling that something bigger and something deeper is happening and we're just all on the outside looking in, and Hollywood and politics have the answers. Oh my gosh. So anyway, that is what's going on there. I actually been looking at some other videos. I'm hoping to have a compilation of all this information that I've been gathering together. But yeah, I just keep coming back. Like we can't all just be imagining that something bigger is going on in our lives. So have you guys been following I haven't looked at anything today to do with Venezuela and all that mess. Oh, no. I did actually. I actually just remembered. So that Congress is blocking Donald Trump and the administration from doing any further military action on Venezuela. Of course, Trump's hitting back saying I can do whatever I want pretty much because I'm the man with the plan. So there's that. And then it was at Minneapolis where ICE had shot and killed a lady. So I don't know if you guys are paying attention to that. I didn't see a whole lot of it today, except for they are blocking the sharing of information on that. They aren't. The FBI has blocked, a big surprise, has blocked sharing any of that information. They've sealed it all, and they're not letting anybody else do this investigation into what happened. Let's see, Jeff says, they'll make it look like we are crazy for looking into these things. Jeff's on a flight today, and I'm glad that you can catch some of the show. Let's see, what else was there? There was something else going on. Oh yeah. So I had seen a video where a Utah sheriff was talking about the construction company who came in right away and paved over the murder scene of Charlie Kirk, right? The keynote comes from Presidio. Yeah. Hi there. Samantha Lynn. Welcome. Please give the stream a thumbs up. Also hit the heart button in the comments next to the comments. But so anyways, he's talking about that obviously we all knew that that's illegal. You're covering a crime scene. You're interfering with an investigation, and yet nobody has charges against them for covering over this crime scene and interfering with an investigation. Nobody. So how is this happening? How is this happening in our world? Let's see. Cisco says, I read today that the ICE agent who fired the shots had in a previous event been dragged by a vehicle. So he may have had adrenaline way up because he was afraid of getting hit by the vehicle. I mean, I feel like anytime you sort of deputize civilians and you put them into this sort of a circumstance, you're going to get all kinds of different people, and they're not going to have the proper emotional training, the proper psychological, mental training that they would need in situations like that. It's hard enough to be a police officer, and you go through, a lot of training for that. And yet we're sticking civilians into these positions, masked civilians at that. So, we know from internet, we know from social media, when your face is covered, when your identity is closed off to everybody else, you do and say a lot of things that you wouldn't normally do or say. So that's a dangerous place to be. I understand they might want it to protect their identity so that they don't get hassled, when they're not at work. But I mean, either you believe in what you're doing or you don't. And I'm sure it's a life-saving aspect to that too. But yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about those library computers. They are pretty slow. I remember back in the day of having to use those. I'm going to share my screen. I want to make sure that we do not miss Candace's start. I don't want to do that yet. So, okay. So it's already shared. So we're already geared up to go there, and I'll turn off her comments there. So then, all right. So they're giving new ICE recruits 50. I saw that. My husband had told me that last week. I almost signed up just for that, but I couldn't. I mean, that's a lot of money. But how much money would it cost? How much money would it take for you to willingly go do that to people? Now, I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know what the right solution is. I don't believe this is it. I don't believe ICE is it. But, what good is taking, people out of the country and then opening up so that all the Venezuelans and the Chinese and all of that, the system works against itself, and they justify what they want to do while justifying, removing some people and justify letting others in. So anyways, printing the economy into death. Yeah. And I was saying that, I was saying that yesterday about crashing the dollar. And oh yeah, that's the other thing in the news right now, is that Trump has signed, he is wanting to get rid of BlackRock and making it so that they can't come in and buy homes and jack up the price and then rent them and having super high rents. And I think that would be great. However, he hasn't signed an executive order, which he could do. So to me, since he hasn't signed an executive order, that signals to me that it's not even going to happen. It won't happen. It's for looks so that he can look good. I don't know if this is the case or not. This seems to be the pattern where it looks like he's doing something, but actually something never happens. But if he's doing it, I know it will benefit him, because President Trump has a pattern and a history of never doing anything that will not benefit him directly. Hi, Julia. True Social to lie. Yeah. 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 All right. Candace is on here. Let's go. Let's expand the screen and make sure we have the music on. Okay. There's just no sound yet. Sounds like. Starting soon. Yep, we've got the sound on. I like this new intro thing that she has going. I have been thinking about doing an intro video to go with my song at the start, like just using clips. I don't know. I'm not a good audio editor, video editor. I just use my iPhone and do what I can there. But at some point, it would be nice to have something cool like this. This is pretty cool. And I love those pictures of her. Yeah, Renee, good. So I wonder, what kind of story they're going to start giving us about Renee, about what kind of deviant she was. Hopefully nothing. Hopefully they don't do that to her. But it wouldn't surprise me if that happens. So that, I don't know anybody hear what's happening in Venezuela today. Any new news on that aside from what we've already talked about? I'm going to flip over here to this. I'm going to put in the search here. Venezuela new news. And of course my keyboard's going to do this again. All right, keyboard doesn't want to cooperate with me. Yeah, she has a new profile picture. Trump is the new Sun King. I know it sounds crazy, as I normally do, but we go anyway. Gosh, I don't even know what that means. And I wonder if Candace is going to jump back on and button up some of the things that never, like if France is, if that's gone, I would like her to go back and topic by topic, get those issues out of there, or tell us it's still in the works and she's still gathering information. That would really be great. Power, but also burdening with debt. Yes, laying the groundwork for a future revolution. And that's what it feels like. It feels like they want actually to be able to create chaos. And again, this is just the conspiratorial mind that I have of almost, it feels like they're manufacturing the collapse of the dollar, the housing market again, because if BlackRock and them actually do have to give up those homes, it's going to flood the market and create that whole crash again. That will need a bailing out. And of course, we love to bail all those big bankers, right? Anyway, so and then the violence, like just manufacturing a complete breakdown of our society so that they can come in with martial law and really take control of things. We'll see. I don't know if y'all are, read the Bible or familiar with Revelation, but I know there's some things going on. I'm not crying it's the end of the world or anything right now, but it's looking.
All right, you
that
guys,
way.
happy Thursday. Sorry, I am running late. I was just doing so much research. I have so much to tell you all today. So we have to jump right into this because I actually have a horror story for you, an actual real life horror story for you. Someone called me last night and told me a very strange story about what happened to her back in the 90s at an evangelical university.
Ooh.
But first, we have to revisit Brian Harpole's story about how far in advance they typically plan security, because someone has leaked to me another glaring oddity in this security protocol. Let's jump right back in. Welcome back to Candace.
Hey, a beat up boat's better than no boat. Anarchy is the mother of order. Yep, break it down to build it back up.
Do you know what I think? I think that whoever made the decision for Brian Harpole to sit down with Sean Ryan made a terrible mistake. Big PR mistake, PR nightmare. That's kind of been the story here. One long, bad PR decision after the next, because the issue is Brian said too much. The internet is meticulous. The internet is clocking them every sentence. It's really easy to catch people in inconsistencies and then to keep replaying what they said about certain things, especially when they don't add up. So I would like to gently remind you all back at home what Brian Harpole said about what typical preparations entail for Charlie Kirk events. Take a listen.
Let's move into the threat assessment and the pre-planning for the event.
Absolutely.
How many days prior were you guys there?
We generally, the permitting process and all that goes on behind the scenes. And then there's a questionnaires that are filled out that we used to, there was a lot of busy work. And then so, kind of like in the military, what you did, we create forms that, hey, let's get this information up front.
Mm-hmm.
And so that we have a duplication process so that we can confirm it. And so we started our first, before that one, the 24th of the month prior. And so, and that was with the hard conversations, meetings.
You started that on the 24th?
Mm-hmm. Right. And we
That's
do
2 weeks.
at
early.
least. No, well, it started before that with the intelligence gathering and all that. But the hard conversations, the sharing of information, the conference calls, the data sheets, and we put that in a timeline on an app, so that this all goes up, and every guy that's on that job can see all the intel that comes in. It's a decentralized command model for the company, and so anybody can make command decisions for the betterment of the client or the team, and so everything goes on that app. And so when I get it, they get it. And when whoever's gathering that intel, it gets it. There's no hold, there's no power hold on it. And so that first information came in on the 24th, and then the information share starts where we're walking through, everything that you need for a detail.
Everything that you need for a detail. Obviously, elsewhere in the interview, he describes this conversation that he had with the chief of police. He's upset about the chief of police not covering the rooftops because he feels that his team was on it. So on it. You're coordinating with whole police departments. You're discussing drones. Drones were not allowed. And so they just had to let that go. Well, interestingly enough, I received a tip from someone that was directly involved with the planning of an event that Charlie Kirk was supposed to attend the following day, on September 11th, the day after his assassination. Charlie was slated to speak in Woodland Park, Colorado, at the Charisse Bible College. Okay, so that's in Woodland Park, Colorado. He was slated to speak there. And according to this person, after Charlie got assassinated, there was a bit of a panicked meeting that took place, which was headed by the chief of police. They decided to transform this event into a vigil, and they were panicked because, believe it or not, they had absolutely no security plan in place. They thought, how odd. We don't have a security plan in place. Now we better consider this. And we need to make sure that we have police officer involvement. Why didn't Dan Flood and Brian Harpole and Turning Point USA's security have any coordination with the police department up in Colorado? If this is what they normally do, and whatever the way he over describes,
Yeah,
that,
that's
and they get the
interesting.
plan, and everybody can access and start to begin to speak, and then we speak to the police. I mean, we do all this stuff. We just didn't think to do that for the event that he had the next day. No police officer involvement scheduled. Nothing. Suddenly they're panicked because they realize they don't have anything scheduled. Yeah.
Kind of like they might have known they wouldn't need it.
So the police chief apparently decided to take measures himself to make sure that the vigil went off without a hitch. That's what I mean. When you lie a lot and when you're planning things you're not supposed to be planning, you don't think through every detail. Yeah, as in the next day. If you expected Charlie to make it to September 11th, you would have been communicating about what he was doing.
Yeah.
Up at the Therese Bible College. Anyways, moving on to other news. I want to show you this working Excel sheet that I quickly put together today. So it is by no means perfect, but I was telling you that throughout this investigation, I have noticed some recurring themes that have come up. Didn't really know what all this means. I still don't know what all of it means, but I wanted to start jotting this down and putting it together so that it looks clean and we can just add another name every time a name comes up in any of these categories. This isn't how you're really supposed to use Microsoft Excel, but it's how I'm using it so that it looks neat. If you just look over here at the columns, these 4 themes that I'm identifying, and I'm going to add more: Liberty University, Eastern Europe, trafficking and child sex abuse, and then in that final column, military. These are just themes that I recognize keep coming up. So Liberty University, very quickly going through this, Tyler Boyer attended and he graduated. Erica Kirk attended and she graduated. Cabot Phillips attended and he graduated. Mikey McCoy was accepted into Liberty University, but then he chose not to attend because he got the job at Turning Point USA instead, and he went direct there after high school. It should be noted that his father, Rob McCoy, met Charlie Kirk via Jerry Falwell Jr., who was the president of Liberty University, until there was a sex scandal, a fallout. Andrew Colvett, I'll tell you what his connection is. Andrew Colvett was working PR for the Kairos company under Johnny Moore. Johnny Moore was the lead pastor at Liberty University prior to then leaving Liberty University to start the PR firm. And Johnny Moore is an important name for those of you who watch. The Tucker Carlson had interviewed someone in the military. He was speaking about what was happening in Gaza, how children were literally starving, how children were being shot at for fun. Bizarrely, they decided that Johnny Moore, Reverend Johnny Moore, is it Reverend Johnny Moore? I don't know. He was somehow equipped to lead the Gaza Humanitarian Fund, and he gets this role. Essentially, you're going to distribute your organization. You're going to be the head of distributing the food to the children of Palestine, the families of Palestine. And obviously we know how that went. IDF soldiers just killing them. And so he does a lot to say, I have no idea why he got this position. It seems remarkably corrupt. Anyways, I wanted to let you know who that Johnny Moore was. He was just running PR. He's a PR guy like Andrew Colvett, who was under him. And then Andrew Colvett leaves Kairos and decides to mint his own PR firm that's really just around Charlie Kirk, really, as his only client. I believe that's his only client, Turning Point USA. Then you have the Falkirk Center. I'm going to put that in the same category in case you don't know this. What happened was Jerry Falwell Jr. and Charlie Kirk decided to come together to establish the Falkirk Center. This was actually Turning Point USA, the precursor to Turning Point USA, right? So he meets Rob McCoy. They start discussing putting this together, the Falkirk Center. And then Jerry Falwell has this huge sex scandal. He's forced to step down. It's like this pool boy scandal. He's forced to step down from Liberty University. And now this project we can't go forward with this. This is hugely embarrassing to the university. This is now going to be a relic. By the way, at that time, Erica Franceby, because her and Charlie were not yet married, they were dating. She became a Falkirk Fellow. They were kind of hitting the road together and working to make the Falkirk Center a thing. And so what happened after it fell apart was that they decided to instead create Turning Point Faith. That's important for you to know that, this origin in Liberty University, because I'm going to tell you more in a bit. Now, regarding Eastern Europe, remember that plane that sort of mysteriously, people thought it turned off its transponder. They issued a statement saying they didn't turn off their transponder. It flew from Provo, Utah into Arizona. And then he said, we were just picking people up. Well, I'm putting that under because in investigating that, I determined that, oh, interesting. They were formally registered. That plane, pardon me, was formally registered in Romania back in 2013. The tail number was then YRNVY, almost looks like Navy there, YRNVY. And then in 2015, so from 2013 to 2015, that plane was registered in Romania. Interesting. Okay.
Romania.
Doesn't necessarily mean anything. I'm just telling you that this is when these things have come up. Obviously, we know that Erica Kirk began the Romanian Angels Project in late 2012, early 2013 through to 2015. And obviously, you have seen all the TikToks describing the scandal. And to explain that to
Romanian
you, just
Angels?
to kind of separate the myth from the facts of this, I'll tell you what the facts are. The facts are that Lori Francevy established the Everyday Heroes Foundation, which was supposed to help children in need. That was established in Arizona under Erica's mother's name, Lori Francevy. What they decided to do, as charities do, is that they develop certain projects and certain missions. And what spun out from Lori's charity was the Romanian Angels Project. And they got this deal with the military. They worked with the military in Romania to help orphans, okay? Now, it is a fact that they worked with, at that time, Colonel Otto Buscher. Colonel Otto Buscher was then accused of running a brothel with young children, taking them onto the military base for himself, his sexual needs. A woman filed in Romania and said, this is what's actually happening. These children are going onto the base and they're being prostituted to military men. So it was not, there is no articles that say Erica Francevy or Lori were involved in this, but it is a fact that they were working on the Romanian project with Colonel Buscher. They thanked him. And then Colonel Buscher gets accused of running a Romanian brothel with Romanian children. Those are the facts of that. In 2011, Tyler Boyer also went to Romania to work with the Romanian government. I am still trying to determine exactly what he was doing with them. I'll have more on that hopefully later. In 2013, Tyler Boyer posted a photo of himself with a Ukrainian orphan named Natalia. She doesn't, he says in the post, or his wife says in the post, current wife says in the post, that she doesn't speak English, Natalia. And he claims to be helping through an adoption agency program, helping her because he speaks Russian. I can show you that photo, actually. We have that photo somewhere, Skylar. Can we pull up that photo of that post? Do you have that? Great. Here we go. Just so you guys know, we're not making this up. This was posted by his wife. This is Natalia. She is 12 years old and she's an orphan from Ukraine. She's staying with my friend Aubrey and her family for the holidays through an adoption agency program. She does not speak English.
Does he just look? Ew. Does he give you the ick right there? Well, always, but get your, if that.
So Tyler was able to go and talk with her in Russian for over an hour tonight. She was shy at first, but by the end of the visit, she was hugging him and asked him not to leave. It was a wonderful yet heartbreaking experience. All at the same time, it makes me so grateful for all that we have. Thank you to the OBS report for letting us be a part of Natalia's stay. Okay. Next, we have Turning Point USA, obviously working with Pastor Greg Laurie, despite Harvest Church being accused of trafficking children from Romania. Okay, sure. He says that's not true. That's not what we were doing. People say, yeah, it's exactly what you were doing. We don't know. We don't have a verdict on that because that's happening currently. Andrew Colvett's brother, Curtis, is currently stationed in Romania as a lieutenant colonel. We have Tyler Boyer, who holds a degree in Russian studies and is fluent in Russian, which is similar to Astrid Tumenez, by the way, the president of UVU. She also holds a degree in Russian studies and is fluent in Russian. And I should mention, she's an orphaned child. Might be relevant, might not be relevant. Who knows?
Oh,
Rob McCoy, I don't know if you know this, but he adopted a 12-year-old girl named Natalia. She now goes by Natasha from Russia around 2006. Okay. So I don't know. It's these are just facts. I'm delivering the facts here. Now, regarding trafficking, sex abuse, a N88 KG, which is now currently owned by Derek and Shalane Maxfield, they run Sapria, which is a child abuse charity. They're helping children that have been abused, a sex abuse charity. And then I told you guys about Colonel Otto Buscher, who was accused of running a brothel with Romanian children from 2011 to 2015 at a Romanian military base in Romania, I should say. Not a Romanian
okay. She
military
needs to
base, an
scroll up
American military
on the
base
screen. We can't
in
see those.
Romania. And yes, he worked with Romanian Angels during that time period. Civilian commander, stationed at Fort Huachuca, a civilian commander that was stationed at Fort Huachuca, David Frodsham, was charged with running a child sex abuse ring. That is true. TPUSA Faith works with Pastor Greg Laurie, as I told you. They are currently embroiled in a trafficking scandal. George Zinn was arrested, and then it was determined that he had pornographic images. That's our decoy boy, of children on his phone. And as I told
We're seeing a common thread, a common theme here, right? That's playing out. Huh. Are you surprised? I'm not surprised.
you, he told people at the hospital that he was treated at that he would be paid if he did this. Now, he didn't know where the money was coming from, but all he had to do was jump up and down and say, it was me, it was me. Andrew Piscadlo, you might remember that name because early on, pictures were circulating of him, and people thought that he could have been the shooter because he was wearing the suits, and people thought he maybe had a weapon in his bag. It ended up being that he was photographing, he was taking pictures. He was a photographer, not hired by Turning Point USA. But
I wish they'd scroll up.
He has rang the alarm before on military Ukrainian sex trafficking that is happening in the United States. If you go through his Instagram.
So this is what I'm saying. How do you run a company? You know the rumors. You know the rumors. Okay? And if you're ignoring them, there's only one reason to ignore them.
He has said this is what's happening currently. They're trafficking children from Ukraine, and he did some investigation into that. So that came up when I was looking into him early on. Obviously, I've covered extensively Calvary Chapel Church, riddled with pastor abuse stories. I mean, it's a thing, okay? And then obviously we know Rob McCoy was trying to rehabilitate somebody who actually went to prison.
Yeah.
He said he found the Lord and decided to put him into homes with children via Calvary Chapel. There's a lot of rehabilitating people who have an issue with abusing children, I would say, at the Calvary Chapel Church. It's problematic. And I'm putting Glenn Beck and Tim Ballard's Operation Underground here. Actually, I learned about Operation Underground. That was introduced to me by Marissa Straight over at PragerU. She asked me to interview Tim Ballard before he had to step down from the charity, which was a child trafficking charity dedicated to rescuing children from being trafficked in war-torn areas. Glenn Beck was the initial investment, as the story was told to me when I was at PragerU, when I interviewed him. Obviously, we know Glenn Beck has interviewed Erica Kirk. We know that Glenn Beck, also his children were there at UVU when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He was one of the first people to speak out about that on the news on September 10th. And Tim Ballard's name strangely came up when we were looking into Phil Lyman. And we learned that he paid Tim Ballard a visit in the days following the assassination, which was just Tim Ballard's name coming up was just interesting to me because I was like, oh, he runs also a child trafficking charity. There's a lot of that happening. And also I should mention Derek and Shalane Maxfield, who run this abuse charity. In their profile pictures, they were wearing an Operation Underground shirt. So people are very passionate, I would say, about trafficking and putting together organizations to stop trafficking.
Where it doesn't stop.
Now, in terms of our military connection, it is extensive.
Ineffective.
Like I said, this is by no means a definitive list. I put this together today. Andrew Colvett's brother and cousin are captains in the military, Curtis Colvett and Robert Colvett. Rob McCoy's father, Roy Edgar McCoy, ran psychological operations for naval intelligence to shape public perception. His son, Danny McCoy, is currently in the military. Yeah, he had a whole naval fleet named after him, actually. So top dog. We obviously know Erica Kirk has been open about the fact that her mother and her father do defense-related military work. It's why she moved to Arizona in the first place, because they had contracts with the DoD, and we know that her father has worked with Raytheon. The Farnsworth family has extensive military connections. I will add more about that later, and we will cover that later because the Farnsworth family in general is important to the story.
Yep.
Dr. Frank Turek was a naval flight officer for 8 years. His son, Frank Turek III, is a deputy division chief, at the Joint Chief of Staff in D.C. His other son, Spencer, is an Air Force vet. He was on the phone with, I think he said both of his sons, FaceTiming with both of his sons. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe it's one of his sons he was FaceTiming with. The Hades military plane, which we haven't discussed too much, but I promise we will get there, inexplicably flew this route around UVU on the day of the assassination, just before and just after, which is interesting because that plane in particular has a lot to do with drones. Again, we'll get more into that in a future episode. And then, of course, the doctors. Dr. Lee Trotter did his residency on an Air Force base, and he also has his pilot's license. The Utah medical examiner, Dr. Deidre Amaro, is a major. Butch Hibbs, we have Jack Hibbs, their father, Butch Sr., military background, and I suspect Butch Hibbs also perhaps is involved in the military himself. We are looking for something a bit more concrete on that. Now, I wanted to present that to you because I want to focus on building that so you can see these themes recurring. But today we're going to talk more about Liberty University because I received a very interesting set of tips about Liberty University. Particularly yesterday, I was contacted by someone. Well, actually, I should say I spoke to someone yesterday. I was contacted by them.
Yeah, it's not, to Jeff's point, it's not about truth. It's about perception. And they don't care about truth. Allegedly. Gotta say that.
Many
Allegedly.
times via email, pleading for me to call. She was pleading for me to call her. It wasn't really clear to me as to why there seemed to be a panic. She was seemingly triggered by a video regarding Trump pageantry. Okay.
Ooh.
The video in question is not controversial, and she has no connection to the person in the video, which was Erica Kirk, simply discussing how she got involved with the Trump pageant world. Hence why I was not exactly seeing the big picture. She doesn't know Erica. She had nothing to say about how Erica knew Trump pageants, but her speaking about it was triggering for her. Anyways, after a lot of back forth, I decided to just call her. I had some time yesterday to see why Trump pageantry in general was so triggering to her. And she began to tell me a story that was quite unbelievable at first until I did some research. This woman, whose identity I am
Hold on. Should we hop on Poly Markets and take bets on what she's going to say?
going to protect at this moment was a young teenager in the 90s, and she had landed herself in a bit of trouble. She wound up with a probation officer, and she also got pregnant, and they essentially told her, hey, you know, you're either going to get your life together, sort of this ultimatum, we could send you to juvie, or you could go away and we'll give you an opportunity here. There's this amazing new program that's being run out of Liberty University, which helps troubled teens, which you are a troubled teen. She was 13 at this time. So obviously they made the decision for her to take the option. It's like when the judge says, hey, you can go to rehab or you can go to prison. Obviously,
Rehab.
I'm going to go to rehab. So she chose to go down to Lynchburg, Virginia.
In rehab, you can get free drugs, like, you know, prescribed drugs. There's like, it's so much better. Rehab. Don't get me started on that whole racket.
She was pregnant to live in a house with other troubled girls who were being helped through a program that was known as the Godparent Program. It still is a thing today. effectively, they help these young women on who are struggling with various other things, but particularly with her and the women that she was sharing rooms with, their pregnancy journey. And they offer to help place their children into adoptive Christian homes should they choose not to keep their children. Sounds nice enough. That seems like, the Christian spirit, pro-life, and don't have an abortion. Instead, we can have
Take your kid.
a home for your child to be raised in. But things got pretty weird after that. And I want you to listen to what she told me in this conversation, which I recorded. And yes, I have her permission to share this conversation.
Is this going to make us cry, you guys?
If this sounds, not too clear, we tried to make it as clear as possible. And let's just roll it. It's going to be quite long, but it's very important. Take a listen.
Just in case.
When I got to the Liberty Godparent home, which is what took me in 94, they used to lock us in our room 24 hours a day. We were locked in our room. We weren't allowed visitors. We weren't allowed people at our home. I didn't have no visitors because I didn't have no family there, of course. And I'm shaking. Hold on. I didn't have no family there, so I didn't have nobody. They used to take weird pictures of us.
How old were you?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
How old were you?
I had to be 13, 14.
Okay, and who
took pictures? 79.
Who took pictures of you?
Senior. And then his face looked familiar, but he looked older now. And you're talking 30 years ago,
Mm-hmm. But Jerry Falwell Sr. was the one actually taking the photos?
Yeah, I remember him and his wife there, but another thing weird about it is I never thought about, what happened the morning I delivered my baby. Everything was weird, and I think about it now, it's all weird to me, but then it wasn't because I was only 13, 14 years old.
Right.
I made mistakes. I mean, I totally turned my life around. I have 4 kids now, 2 grandbabies, but
I want to go back to, so what was weird about that night that you gave birth?
Oh gosh, the night before. Okay, so they have a live-in mother, 24 hours. I called there like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. This is what's weird. I called there right after I prayed. I called there because this video of Erica came up with Trump, and you have to get invited. And I was like, how in the world did I get invited? And to this day, I still don't know how in the world I got invited to that, and what pictures they had of me.
Interesting.
And I'm mistaken again.
Okay. Okay, so you had the baby, and what was weird about that night?
Okay, the night before like I said, they have house mothers, and I can't remember details, but I remember them doing, putting the probe on, listening to the heartbeat pretty much, and looking at, doing ultrasound.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to this day, I've had, 4 other kids, plenty of ultrasounds, so I know what they were doing was funny to me because everything was fine that night, and then they moved me, which was weird. They moved me to another room by myself.
Okay.
At that time, I had another girl with me. There's all these different girls there, and some of them don't even speak English. Okay.
How old?
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. How many girls live in that house?
Back then there was about between 12 and 15 on one house, but you're talking anywhere from age 12 to 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that time I was the youngest, but.
And some of them didn't speak English?
Yeah, there was a couple girls, they didn't speak English, but we weren't allowed to, that's another thing, we weren't allowed to talk to the other girls. We were only allowed, certain girls were on one certain side of the hallway, certain girls
I'd like to know what language they spoke.
were on the other certain side of the hallway. Back then we had to either call collect or use quarters.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
on a payphone, you know. They didn't allow us to use the regular phones. They treated us like slaves, but the next morning, it's like they knew something was going to happen to my baby or something, because the next morning, I all of a sudden didn't have a heartbeat and I had to go in. But the strange thing about it is their daughter, this is another thing I thought about, their daughter is a high doctor at the Liberty or at some university, some hospital in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Okay.
And back then, if I remember correctly, their daughter was like one of the house mothers.
Okay.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm wondering if their daughter was like my nurse or
Yeah.
nurse lady
Mm-hmm.
and gave me something to
Right.
miscarry, because, see, the thing is they coerced us to give up the baby because they got money for their adoption. It was some kind of adoption ring. I didn't know nothing about it.
Okay.
But my thing was is that I kept telling them, no, I wanted to keep my baby because I had a 3-year-old nephew and I had took care of him. I thought I could mother, and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't for me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I was too young.
Okay.
But still, I have questions because now I keep seeing stuff and I'm like, why are all these videos coming up on my feeds for no reason, you know?
Can I ask you a
After I-
question?
Sure.
Are you saying that you miscarried the baby?
Yeah. But I was further along and they kept telling me I had to hurry up and make up my mind and make up my decision because I'm running out of time. I have to hurry it up. And I'm like, why do I have to hurry it up?
Hurry what up?
Months
Hurry
left.
what up?
Decide if I want to
The decision.
They kept showing me folders of people's faces. Would you like your baby to be with this person, or would you like to go raise your baby somewhere else or on the streets? Or
Okay, and then
You know.
here's a question for you.
Sure.
How far along were you when you miscarried?
You know, I was asking my mom that, and truthfully, I have called down there to find myself, to find dates out, and I can't even find myself actually in their system. That's another thing that's weird.
That's very
I've
scary.
I've called down there this past few weeks just to find out information on myself. I even called my own probation officer, which he called me back last night. He was actually telling me information, and he told me, you know, back then I wasn't a bad kid. I just skipped school because I stayed home and stepped in.
Mm-hmm.
My mom got in trouble for it. I went in juvie for it. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
But
Wait, but I just want to stick to the story of
Okay, go
just to
ahead.
stay focused. You don't know how pregnant you were when you had a miscarriage?
Well, I can tell you I was probably they had to induce the labor.
Okay.
I had to deliver. So if that tells you I was over 4 months,
Yeah.
I was over.
So let me tell you what is really interesting about this particular conversation. Well, Liberty University is involved, and you hear she broke down crying several times throughout the conversation. There was obviously real pain there. And what's really interesting is that she told me thereafter that while she can pull all of her court records, Liberty University is sort of like, you know, it's all electronic now. You're talking about the 90s. We can't find you. We can't find you. You had a baby in a house when you were 13 years old and we can't find you. By the way, where's the baby buried? I asked that question to her. And she said what happened after she gave birth was they called her mom and they said that she's got to go. I said, how do you know the baby was dead? You're telling me
Right.
they moved you into a room and they induced labor after you said, I don't want to give up my child. They induced labor. They told you, a child, that yourself, that there was no heartbeat, mysteriously, right after you made the decision that you didn't want to give up your child for adoption. You felt like you were being pressured. Now there's no heartbeat. They induce labor. You never see your son. That just said she had a son. She never saw anything. They tell your mom she's got to pick you up ASAP. That's what she goes on to tell me, because they didn't want the other young women to be traumatized learning that she had a miscarriage. So in the middle of the night, her mom drives up and picks her up. Funeral? Is there a headstone? What happens when there's a induced labor at Liberty University. This is unbelievable. Now, why she was triggered when she heard Erica speaking about Trump pageantry, to connect that dot for you.
Thank you.
Is because Erica had said, you have to submit your pictures. Well, she goes back home. She's still a teenager. And 2 years later, she gets an invite to join Trump pageant world. But she doesn't know how they got her picture. She doesn't know how they got her picture. She wasn't taking pictures. She wasn't trying to be in pageant world. And so that's what triggered her and went, wait a second, how did they get my picture? Why were they taking these weird pictures? She never said that they were sexual, by the way. I'm sure they probably said to her at the time at that house, like, so that we can submit your picture to the Christian adopted families, whatever it is. But it sort of clicked to her that that's kind of odd that I got this invitation to join Trump pageant world. Now, for those of you who have followed our Epstein series, we spoke about this. Xavier Poussard showed that this was one of his mechanisms. Jeffrey Epstein, Israel's guy, would go find organizations where there were tons of young women that were coming through, and he would pump money into them, like Victoria's Secret. And maybe some trafficking happened, right?
And maybe.
By the way, the history of pageantry, for those of you that don't know, it's child sex trafficking. It's the Carneys, it's P.T. Barnum and Bailey in America. What was going on at carnivals, historically speaking, it was very dark stuff. Very dark stuff. Anyways, in case you aren't believing the story, because we know what happens next, they do the Mitch Snow thing. Oh, she's crazy.
You're
She's making this
crazy.
up.
Yeah.
It's all an illusion. Well, the good thing is that there's actually an entire podcast series that is currently investigating this godparent program at Liberty University.
Oh.
And these women have done incredible work, so much work that it actually got picked up locally in Virginia by ABC News. Take a listen.
Hold up.
The Liberty Godparent Home, a place for young, single, pregnant women, is defending itself against allegations of coercion and manipulation.
A new podcast called Liberty Lost alleges some of the young women felt pressured to place their children for adoption. ABC 13's Rachel Branning investigates.
The Liberty Godparent Home is tucked away on Liberty Mountain Drive. The maternity home was founded by Jerry Falwell Sr. in the 80s
he's just
as part of the
gross.
pro-life ministry at Thomas Road Baptist
He's
Church.
so disgusting.
Now it's the focal point of the podcast Liberty Lost.
What inspired you to investigate this in the first place?
For the last 2 years, I've been investigating the maternity home after connecting with several residents who went through the home as pregnant teenage girls, both in the 1990s and in 2008.
One of those residents, Abby Johnson. At 16, she got pregnant.
Finding out I was pregnant was traumatic and shocking and not something I had any preparation for mentally, socially, emotionally.
Her parents sent her across the country to Liberty Godparent Home with the promise of a scholarship to Liberty University after all was said and done.
I really can't describe the sense of abandonment and fear and disassociation that you experience when your family abandons you, all the while calling it something like good for you and like this is a plan.
Johnson says she wanted to keep her son. However, she felt the home already made the decision to go the adoption route.
Did you ever really feel like you had a choice? No, I felt that I was put in really terrifying moments of being given an opportunity to explain to an adult that had a different opinion how I thought I could pull it off.
The Godparent Home declined my request for an interview, but sent a statement saying in part, quote, "Our staff and volunteers work tirelessly in
We
this
help
ministry and have built
people.
a reputation of being a trusted voice and ministry resource in the community. They have treated every individual who has sought assistance with compassion and integrity."
Did you feel supported in any way by the people within the home? No, I felt endlessly put off.
Raphael says in theory, maternity homes are a good thing.
These women should have been supported and provided with real options to keep and parent their children if that's what they wanted to do.
But she says the Godparent Home shouldn't have ties to an adoption agency. According to city records, the Godparent Home and the Family Life Services Adoption Agency share an address.
Yeah, that's conflict.
Thomas Road Baptist Church founded Family Life Services, according to their website.
Yep.
I reached out to them multiple times for comment about the allegations in the podcast.
We just want to make sure we're sharing all sides of this story.
But I haven't heard back. Johnson and Raphael say for them, speaking out is the path forward.
help people feel like they have a voice, that they're not forgotten.
I also reached out to the Godparent Home. I asked if they can put me in contact with residents who have had a positive experience in the home, but at this point, I haven't gotten a response.
They can't.
I would imagine that I would respond to that, and I'd say, yeah, tons of people had a positive experience. And
Yeah.
again, the woman that I spoke to, you can see she was there when it was Jerry Falwell Sr., who we're going to speak about in a little
They're scared and scrambling, I'm sure.
bit, because I'm going to connect even more dots for you. You know, what I want to say is we all felt, for some reason, spiritually sick watching AmFest, right?
Yes,
Tim,
sick.
Dylan did such a good job of saying this feels like something else. Like they just
Guys, I felt dirty. I felt like it was so demonic. I felt like it was dead. Watching the people at AmFest come on and talk on stage, and their voices, their faces, their eyes, it was dead. It was the wildest thing, because I watched AmFest fully expecting to see some really great stuff and to be spiritually and politically moved in a sort of kind of way, motivated, inspired. It was dead, you guys. Dead.
to keep saying that this is about God and this is about the Lord and this is about, almost like they were trying to turn Charlie into a messianic figure. And yet we felt darkness there. We felt darkness. We felt like this was actually about money. We felt like we were being deluded. We felt like it was a Las Vegas convention. And I had been speaking throughout the last year, even before Charlie Kirk got assassinated. I dedicated a lot of time in this podcast to speaking to you about this veneer of Christianity. Operation Mocking Pastor, we termed it. And we really saw them start to ratchet that up after Charlie Kirk's assassination. These influencers. Well, this is the Lord. This is what the Lord would want. Yeah, we're going to talk more about that. And I'm going to tell you more about the founding of Liberty University right after a brief break. Well, it's certainly a time in America we've had skyrocket.
Wow. So it's funny because we all suspect these things, right? Or you know, if you're here, I'm feeling like, unless you're here to troll, you already suspect this. You already think you know this. But it's one thing to think you know, and to know you know, and then to know. Like it. It's yeah. David Icke is right on a few things. Religion is the greatest form of mind control. Yeah, it is. And there's a creator, a filmmaker. His name is Ryan Mata. He's on X. He's also on YouTube. He does some. Oh, okay. I'm making sure Candace isn't back. Some documentaries about CPS and about the broken system. I come from that system, and I have a lot to say about that, as well as the military and what they're trained and, I think, brainwashed and trained to do. And I feel like it has a lot to do with pornography and sex trafficking and children. And I think the military was created, in fact, for that purpose. Same with CPS. Oh, okay. Oh, here she is. Hold on.
City. Now, I have been signaling to you guys, like I said, that there is something very wrong with these mega churches in America. There's very wrong with almost what I would term Christian Inc. These Christian influencers, suddenly they look like they're glitching a bit, right?
Yeah.
Something happened in the last year and we're like, oh, I used to kind of like you and now you seem to be glitching.
Exactly, letters.
You're telling us it's right here in the Bible. You seem overly invested in certain narratives. Suddenly this is beginning to feel like, well, a psychological operation that's being orchestrated by Israel, because you sort of missed it. If your whole brand is Christianity, but you decided to stay mum on the atrocities that Israel is committing in Gaza, this probably isn't really about Christianity, is it? The Bible's pretty clear.
Or about pro-life.
Thou
At
shalt
all.
not kill.
At
Children,
all.
especially. If I could offer an addendum, children, especially innocent souls, and yet they're remarkably mum on the issue of Charlie Kirk. They had more ire for Candace Owens investigating it than they did for the FBI. No interest. Shut it down. Right? Shut it down. How dare you say he's Catholic? That's what's wrong with this. You saying anything about Catholicism is wrong. Glitch, glitch. Oh, Josh Hammer's lying. Let me tell you, he's a wonderful human being. Glitch, glitch. I'm sorry, lying. Shouldn't you just be able to call a spade a spade? No, they can't because they represent something else. Now, I want to be clear. I have spoken at Liberty University multiple times, and I promise you, I never thought once to look up their origin story. I was just so excited that there was a Christian university in general, and they were remarkable to me when I spoke there. And I wasn't looking, I guess, for anything deeper. I didn't see how I was also being manipulated in various ways early on in my political career. So color me surprised to learn that Liberty University was once failing, and then it received a ton of funding. Honestly, the story of how it came to be the university that it is today is quite interesting. Someone emailed me and they wrote, and I quote, "Hi, Candace, I'm currently reading The Israel Lobby by John Mearsheimer. And in the book, it talks about how the Israeli government gave Jerry Falwell, Liberty University's founder, Jerry Falwell Sr., a $2 million jet in 1979. Adjusted for inflation, that's like $10 million. And that was to gain support from evangelicals in America. I figured it would be helpful for your deep dive of Israel buying evangelicals," end quote. So that's interesting. That tip does seem like something I should explore.
Okay, so I want to say, remember, who was it that gave Trump a new jet, a new plane, Air Force One? Okay, because I think there's more to it than what. There's more to it. I know there is.
Probably is helpful. And it's true. Jerry Falwell Sr., I should tell you, had a rather radical conversion to Christianity when Israel became a nation in 1948. Now, prior to that, this is according to the Washington Post, he came from a family that definitely had some issues. His daddy, a man named Carrie Hezekiah, was a drunk, and he was a bootlegger. Okay? He was a bootlegger, and he was a drunk, and he got into a fight with his brother once. This is literally his brother. His name was Garland, and he shot him dead. And to be even clearer here, his dad wasn't just a bootlegger. Carrie was not just a bootlegger. He was also a smuggler and a trafficker. Okay, so he pretended like he was just a business owner that was running a string of gas stations, ostensibly, but in reality, he was using his fuel trucks to smuggle bootleg whiskey into America during the time of Prohibition. It's giving Trogno liquors, you know, as we started getting into season 2 of Becoming Brigitte. I'm like, wow, a lot of people were smuggling things into America. Anyways, I keep telling you guys that the people that rule over us, the people that have these huge platforms, they are not smarter than us. They're just more corrupt than us.
Yep.
They're willing to do anything to maintain their power.
Anything.
And they really are the heirs of gangsters. Back to Carrie, after he shot his brother dead, he became a rather nasty alcoholic. His employee, one time, this is a true story as documented by Rolling Stone, his employee stayed home sick one day, so Falwell got mad, and he decided to catch the man's cat that he loved, and he killed the cat. And then he cooked the cat. And then he delivered the remains of the cat to the employee's house for lunch.
Oh.
Yeah. That's why I went with the thumbnail title, Don't F with Cats, because now we have to find Charlie Kirk's murderer, for those of you who watched that series. Now, according to Forbes, he also once threw a man into a bear cage after he had an argument with him at one of his restaurants. So, yeah, he had a colorful background indeed. I said these people are gangsters. But in 1948, the very year that Israel became a nation, Carrie Hezekiah died from cirrhosis of the liver, and his son, Jerry Falwell Sr., had an immediate radical conversion to Christianity. Bootlegging, trafficking, smuggling, be damned, because his business was now going to be the church, ministering. He became a televangelist, and he established Lynchburg College in 1971, which would eventually change its name to Liberty University that we know today. And yes, it is true, in 1979, Jerry Falwell Sr. was gifted a Learjet from the founder of the Likud party, then Prime Minister of Israel, Menachem Begin. Now, that's pretty nice of Israel. But
Why do all these guys look creepy?
always am wondering, in exchange for what? Like, in exchange for what? Because that kind of reminds me about how Bibi Netanyahu wanted to take Turning Point USA to the next level. He offered to take Turning Point USA to the next level. Charlie Kirk said no. But apparently nobody in the mainstream media is interested in answering the question as to why he wanted to take Turning Point to USA to the next level. What does Israel have to do with young evangelicals, a young evangelical organization?
Tell us.
Also, how? That's my other big question. How exactly was he planning to get that money into Turning Point USA? I'm assuming he wasn't going to write like a blank check from the Likud party. Surely he was going to accomplish that through other people and their organizations, because Israel never gets their hands dirty if they can avoid it. That's the lesson of yesterday, by the way. You employ Christians to do your dirty work. And I got another clue from a different email tip that I received regarding Liberty University. It reads, "Hi, Candace. I have some links that might be important for you in your investigation regarding connections between the Iran-Contra scandal and Liberty University." Now, to remind you, the Iran-Contra scandal was a trafficking scandal that involved our government, the CIA, of course, the Mossad. Jeffrey Epstein was involved in the Iran-Contra scandal. If the Mossad is to be believed, that's how they first brought him in, running weapons through South America. And the CIA and the Mossad got caught they were trying to control what was happening in South America. And they were arming people to take over countries. That's kind of what our CIA does. Anyways, the reason how this involves Liberty University is that during the Iran-Contra scandal, as the email goes on, a man named Sun Myung Moon, a North Korean evangelical cult leader, assisted the CIA in its so-called anti-communist efforts. That's how they build.
I remember that too.
What they were doing during the Iran-Contra scandal in Central America. He used his logistics network through the churches to aid the Contras through his Unification Church. He connected and their connected organizations like CAUSA. And he also ran PR for the Reagan administration regarding U.S.'s involvement in Central America through his newspaper, The Washington Times. Okay, so what's important is that this Sun Myung Moon later would bail Liberty University out. The person in the email said roughly the amount was $20 to $40 million in the mid-1990s. Now, I find it extremely interesting. This person wrote to me, I find it extremely interesting that the same evangelical cult leader who worked with federal agencies and profited from the Iran-Contra scandal also financially rescued Liberty University, and how Liberty University might be connected to the drug smuggling military base. He's referring to Fort Huachuca. That was the reason he sent the email discussing Fort Huachuca. Interesting indeed, I would say, because we've got a story about the feds, smuggling, Christianity, Israel, South Korea. Did all that actually happen? Yeah, that it did actually happen.
Bailouts.
And the Washington Post did a fantastic article breaking down what became known as the Moon Cult, in an article that they published in 1997, as that cult was beginning to fade, or I guess their power was beginning to fade here in America. And it's stunning because if you close your eyes and imagine, you start to see Turning Point USA and Turning Point USA Faith. Everything that I've been describing, I kept saying from the very beginning, what went rotten at Turning Point USA was this faith push. I've been telling you, and I'm going to show you that these Egyptian planes, I've showed you in part, were tracking Turning Point USA Faith, these pastors, okay? What's going on with these quote-unquote Egyptian planes that happen to look like they're going into Gaza, actually? So I'm going to read you parts of this article regarding the Reverend Sun Moon, his Unification Church. He declared himself, just so you know, a Messiah. So when we start to see how it feels like they were trying to establish Charlie as a messianic figure, and it's all become somehow about money. They don't actually care about Charlie. It's like, how much money can we make? We're going to put the tent up. We're going to make it people just, here's the bloody mic. We're putting it in a thing. It feels like I said a seance. I want you to imagine that as I tell you about what Sun Moon's Unification Church accomplished in America, rather. And yes, attached to the Iran-Contra affair and Israel and pumping money into Liberty University. Okay, now it tells us that their Unification Church was faltering as a religion in the United States, but it still remains a robust, diverse business. Again, this is 1997, especially in the Washington area, where the movement controls more than $300 million in commercial, political, and cultural enterprises. It tells us that the organization's owned or sponsored by Moon and his inner circle of Korean and American followers holds properties stretching from Prince George to Fairfax County, according to corporate property and court records. This vast and bewildering multinational could be called Moon Inc. It is a sprawling collection of churches, nonprofit foundations, and for-profit holding companies. In the Washington area, the Unification Church's investment is an important cog in a global machine that Moon uses to boost his credibility, spread his spiritual doctrine, and win political influence, according to current and former church members. As the unification movement evolved from selling roses on street corners to acquiring control of a nationwide cable channel, the nation's capital became the epicenter of Moon's U.S. holdings. Those include the Washington Times newspaper, a video production firm, a stately old church, once the pride of the Mormons along 16th Street Northwest, Washington area property owned by the church, its affiliated companies or senior church officials, is worth more than $200 million, according to property and corporate records. A lot of property. I was telling you, Turning Point's getting into real estate. It's very interesting. They're getting into real estate.
I called that, y'all.
I have, because they're going to teach young conservatives how to buy houses, I'm sure. Tyler Boyer leading the charge.
Okay, so I'm going to have to find that post because when they started pushing that 50-year mortgage, as a matter of fact, I made a post about it on X, that 50-year mortgage, and I feel like TPUSA had some part in pushing that. I was like, so they're getting into real estate. It's so predictable if you pay attention. Okay, anyway. Guys, I'm always right. Ask my husband.
Washington will be the focus of the worldwide unification movement this week, as Moon-sponsored organizations are going to hold a series of academic conferences and the World Sports and Culture Festival, culminating Saturday with a mass wedding at RFK Stadium. The South Korean self-declared Messiah has grown increasingly vehement within the unification movement. Moon's spiritual and business ventures are viewed as a part of a unified whole. Quote, ideas without the money to back them up are just dreams, end quote, said Richard Rubenstein, the president of the movement-controlled University of Bridgeport. The corporate section is understood to be the engine that funds the mission of the church. I am telling you, this is like almost verbatim if you were to read statements about Turning Point USA and their spinoffs. We need the money to do the work. This is what it's going to be the 501c3, the 501c4, and Turning Point Action. This is where it's all going to come together. It goes on to tell us that since the 1970s, Moon has gained his highest profile in this country, not with his church, but with the Times, the 100,000 circulation daily that competes with the Washington Post. But the paper has become an established voice of conservative America. Beyond the Times, Moon-affiliated entities are linked by a complex web of interlocking directorships and nurtured by a seemingly endless flow of cash from the Far East. That has enabled them to buy new businesses and even help to bail out Reverend Jerry Falwell's founding Liberty University. Again, this is 1997. Executives of unification-related entities have acknowledged that money from Japan and Korea are fueling their U.S. operations. But the magnitude and the mechanism of those payments, as well as their exact sources, have eluded investigators on 3 continents over the past 3 decades. Let me slow that down for you. So you're telling me we have a based organization with a political arm that is stretched into evangelical churches, that's working with Israel.
She's getting
helping
it.
the CIA traffic arms.
We're getting it.
At one point through churches and the presence of their church. And now you're telling me that when they started looking into where this money was coming from, it's actually eluding them how the money is coming from Japan and Korea. And wasn't that Charlie's last trip? Bizarrely, he went to Korea. We're going to get to that.
Yeah.
And then after he went to Korea and met with the pastor, that pastor got arrested. Again, we're going to get to that. And then after he went to Korea, he went to Japan. I'm just saying the past is feeling like it's a bit prologue. Why was Charlie going to build up? What does Charlie Kirk have to do with Korea? Turning Point Faith pushing you into Korea. A lot going on in South Korea, by the way. Like, LOL, when I saw this article about how they suddenly established a Holocaust.
Okay, so, and this begs the question, you guys. Charlie Kirk was in this for a long time, right? For a lot of years, at least since 2012, building this thing. How much did he know? Was he the good guy that we think he was? Did he start out that way? Did he go the wrong path and then go, wait a minute, I got to pull myself out of this and want to correct course? How much did he know? How much was he complicit, or how much did he turn a blind eye?
Museum. I was like, there goes the neighborhood. Do we have that article? Yeah. South Korean Christian Zionists opened the country's first Holocaust museum. I should add that to my timeline, because there goes the neighborhood. We're coming. You can't question anything. We're going to call you Hitler. Sorry, South Korea. You're so cooked. Okay. Anyways, jumping back into this article before I show you what happened when Charlie went to Korea and a pastor then got arrested. It tells us that
Me too, Cisco.
Moon Inc. Sorry, let me flip this. Wrong side. Moon's businesses exist for several purposes. Church leaders and critics agree. To employ members, to gain influence in industries that Moon considers crucial, and to support Moon's spiritual and political agenda. Sometimes that support is direct, as when Moon's nonprofit organizations contribute to conservative political and social causes with financial donations, staff, and publicity. And sometimes it's indirect, as when Moon-sponsored groups stage academic, religious, and cultural conferences, inviting professors, clergy, media executives, and other opinion shapers to meetings, all expenses paid. Oh, that reminds me of Turning Point USA Faith. I told you they were embarking on this pastor summit. They were going to bring all of these Christian Zionist influencers, training. They had a pastor summit led by Rob McCoy, as I showed you that. Sean Foyt, they were going to lead this up, pumping in money. This is what was growing. Turning Point Faith, which was spun out of Liberty University. So this feels especially relevant. It goes on to say that they'll have a conference on the essence of religious founders. This is a guy who was an ex-Catholic priest. His name was Borderland. He says, quote, they'll have a conference on the essence of religious founders like Buddha, Jesus. And then Moon gets a room full of academics to sit there. He gets his picture taken with them. He gets credibility. They get to have their conference. It's all very messy, end quote. Borderland, like many people who have received some of Moon's generous bounty, has never been able to figure out the blizzard of organizations that make up Moon Inc.
Oh,
He
okay.
says, quote, my
Let's
money
go.
is never from the church itself. It's always the international something or another. That's interesting, because when we started looking into Operation Mocking Bastard, we had that lead that it was coming from one of these international fellowships of whatever, ICJF, I don't remember what it was. Point is like there's all these international fellowship of Christians and Jews, and they're pumping money with an explicit purpose. In fact, you'll be very proud to know that when I worked for the Daily Wire, they used to bring me companies like ad reads, and they brought me the International Fellowship of Christian and Jews to read ads for. And so I said to my producer at the time, I said, well, what is this actually? Let's pull it up. Okay, because I was allowed to decline an ad read if I had a moral, if I felt like I was morally averse to it. And so I pulled up the website, and it was basically, here's what you Christians can do for Jews. And I said, this doesn't feel like a fellowship. So no, I'm a Christian. We're going to get to work. We have tons of issues. They're not saying what they're going to do in the Congo, or how they're going to help with what's going on all around the world, Armenia. So why would I just like read ads for it? There's something going on with that organization, by the way. They've got their hands in a lot. Anyways, that's how they were doing this. They were paying this guy, but it wasn't actually coming from Moon's church. It was coming from international something or another. That's how you hide the money. It goes on to read, on one corridor, the International Coalition for Religious Freedom, the group that Bordelon said signs his checks these days, shares a suite with the Martial Arts Federation for World Peace and a company called Washington Times Aviation. The only person in the suite on a recent visit was a Korean man who spoke little English, saying, "I am Martial Arts Federation. I work for Father."
What?
Okay. Then tells us that Moon's Washington enterprises range from a ballet academy to an architectural molding company to magazines. They said, quote, "The idea was that we'd be like Disney, controlling all kinds of media, working on behalf of God." Always, always. Paquette, whose job gave him access to financial information about several church-related businesses, said he believed that virtually none of the Unification's U.S. operations is profitable. You have all these businesses and none of them are profitable. Where's the money coming from? How's that work, actually?
That's what he said.
And isn't it starting to sound like the Seven Mountain Mandate? These pastors, we got to have an interest in culturally here and there. We've got to be everywhere. And Turning Point's going to help us get there. It's very interesting. Where is the money coming from and where is it going was one of Charlie Kirk's last questions before he was assassinated. He established Doge to determine that answer. They decided to investigate Moon Organization in 1978. In 1978, a congressional investigation into the Moon Organization concluded that, quote, "the Unification Church and numerous other religious and secular organizations headed by Sun Moon constitute essentially one international organization that moved money freely among its entities." SEC filings show that the cash for Nostalgia, that's one of their companies, comes through a chain of companies that lead to the Unification Church International. It's a vertically integrated operation that is common in Moon's empire. He goes on to tell us, this is my favorite quotation, because it's just so mega church vibes. Like, you find $300,000 behind a sink or a toilet. Tells us, quote, "Rev Moon sent bags of cash, big fat bags, stacks and stacks of hundreds from Korea and Japan to Manhattan Center. The church's recording studio in New York City," Paquette said, "whenever we asked where that money was coming from, the answer was that it came from the Father." Okay. I think we're good on that.
Okay.
The wealth of Unification's worldwide economic empire remains a closely guarded secret. Lawrence Ziliox, a private investigator who has studied the church for more than a decade, has concluded from church documents that the Unification Church International, the main holding company for Moon's U.S. businesses, exceeded $500 million in the mid-1980s. Man, who took Moon Inc. to the next level? But the church's wealth has always been centered in Asia. A detailed analysis by the Far Eastern Economic Review in 1990 valued the church's land holdings in South Korea alone at more than $1 billion. In recent years, though, several of the Korean companies have lost money, causing business experts there to wonder, like their counterparts in America, where the money comes from. Charlie Kirk, where is the money coming from?
Yes.
And where is it going to?
To.
Charlie Kirk is in Korea. He's in Japan. And he's being told that he's there for reasons that have to do with the Christian faith being suppressed. And I don't think that's why they had him there, to be honest with you. I don't think that's why they pushed for Charlie to go to Korea and to Tokyo.
Tell us why.
The long-standing explanation as to where the money comes from, where the money was going to, it is Japan, not Korea, that provides the bulk of the church's wealth, as much as 70%, church observers estimate. They can't get to the bottom of that. We don't know. We don't know the answer to that. Yet despite years of such legal and financial troubles, the unification movement continues to pump hundreds of millions of dollars into existing businesses and new ventures all around the world. It's just a bottomless pit of money. Nobody knows where it's coming from. According to business analysts and academics who study the church, Moon's most ambitious foray into the political process in recent years was the American Freedom Coalition, a conservative group that built popular support for Colonel Oliver L. North during the Iran-Contra probe. In addition to about $5 million, unificationists provided the personnel that gave the coalition its grassroots strength. Former church members said, yes, of course, we got to be able to help the colonels, got to have a military angle here. And so that has been their most ambitious, building something that actually helped.
Yeah. What I was saying to you guys, the military
People
is
that were implicated. Tells us also in 1995, the Women's Federation made another donation. That's another arm of this church.
And it has more than just protecting our nation.
A donation that illustrates how Moon supports his fellow conservatives. It gave $3.5 million grant to the Christian Heritage Foundation, which later brought a portion of Liberty University's debt, rescuing Reverend Jerry Falwell's Lynchburg, Virginia religious school from the brink of bankruptcy. The Post has learned of more recent and direct financial support from Moon to Falwell. Last year, New World Communications, which is a parent company of the money-losing Washington Times, lent $400,000 into Liberty at a 6% interest, according to the promissory note. So the point of all of this is that to get money, it's a web. It's a financial web that took one investigator 10 years to still not figure out how all of this money is happening. And that's what it feels like Turning Point USA has become, a very complex financial web where money is coming in and money is going out, and every dollar is being spent and money is going back to certain people, and there are kickbacks. And it feels like very sophisticated money laundering. When I read what happened with Moon Inc., and I compare it to what seems to be happening at Turning Point USA, it feels like the company grew bigger than Charlie Kirk. And then they were ready to go to the next level. Like maybe they were presented with an opportunity to become Moon Inc. And maybe Charlie said no. Maybe. Anyways, back to Korea. Yeah, Charlie's last trip. He went to go meet with a pastor. And Charlie, the way it was pitched to Charlie was that they were suffering, Christians are suffering in Korea because they want to get engaged into politics. And Christians want to vote what Christians are concerned about. But again, I don't think that's why the McCoys were pushing for Charlie to go to Korea, because they just got a Holocaust museum. And I don't think much Holocaust stuff happened in Korea. Feels like maybe Korea's getting infiltrated, like America got infiltrated. I mean, you can guess how extensive the infiltration is by guessing how extensive the Holocaust education is what I would say. That's kind of the lesson that I'm looking back and I'm going, it's kind of weird. We didn't learn about this at school. We had to learn about that. Yeah. You have to establish yourself as the ultimate victims before you do the ultimate oppressing vibes. I don't know. Anyways, I'll let you read about, or rather see, this is the headline from the Korean Herald, how pro-union pastor was arrested for breaking election law. He was arrested on September 9th. Now, to remind you, Charlie
Tyler Boyer was just pardoned
there on the 4th and the 5th for the Build Up Korea conference. So days later, he got arrested. And the rhetoric that he was using is interesting. It's very interesting. Take a look at this news clip. And sorry, Skylar.
Turning overseas, we've been following the case of South Korean pastor Yoon Bo-sung. His imprisonment has raised concerns about religious freedom in South Korea. The case recently gained more attention when his son Chance spoke in Arizona at Turning Point USA's AmFest. Asia correspondent Lucille Toulousan spoke with him following that appearance.
Where he spoke about this.
Trump does protect them at TPUSA. He's protecting Erica. He's protecting all of that. I don't think he necessarily. I think Trump is stuck, and he is. He's just for himself, but he is protecting them, and it's all about real estate. And I guarantee you, he's got some angle that he's working for himself and his buddies in all of this BlackRock and the TPUSA real estate arm now, and the 50-year mortgages. You watch.
father's case. Pastor Yoon Bo-son remains jailed in South Korea on election law charges and has drawn attention from the Korean administration for his stance on biblical truths.
So firstly, I would like to thank CBN News for covering my father's news when it was mostly needed. And that's when I believe a lot of Christians in the States especially starting to pick up my father's story. I think this is a great opportunity for Americans themselves to be able to realize what's at stake and what we are to do as brothers and sisters in Christ.
As a show of support, the organization Advocates for Faith and Freedom has launched a petition for a fair legal process in Pastor Son's case. Support from Americans is also growing. That includes the late Charlie Kirk, who met Pastor Son in Seoul at a conference.
My father was able to share what's happening in Korea recently, especially to the Christian leaders, including himself. And also the possibility that my father could get arrested. And in fact, my father got arrested 2 days after he met Charlie. Charlie made sure that he will use his platform and his voice to let the whole world and America know that this is happening in South Korea. And this was important for him because it was an example what would happen if we don't speak for biblical truth.
So just so you know, why was he arrested? Well, he was accused of violating the Public Official Election Act and the Local Education Autonomy Act prior to attending a court hearing on Monday on the warrant for his arrest. The conservative pastor participated in a protest that was held by Christian groups in which he said that the state is, quote, the same as Hitler and the Nazis, end quote. And his arrest would be a confirmation of his claim, according to this article. He shouted the words that Lee Jae-myung has to die for Korea to live. They're fighting Nazis, guys. Like everybody, everywhere is fighting Nazis at all times. It's just the only thing that's ever happened in the history of the world is these Nazis. And obviously, if you don't allow this museum to come in and allow Christians to have a leg here, Christians, well, then obviously the Holocaust is going to happen again. I think it's pretty sound. This all feels right to me. If I had to today give you my best guess as to why Charlie Kirk was assassinated, it's because an offer came to him to become the next moon, to turn Turning Point, which is already a $100 million organization, into a multi-billion-dollar organization, like in real estate and purchasing businesses and doing all sorts of things, working with the military and the top politicians in the world. And you just turn the other way. Don't ask questions about where the money's coming from or how you're getting the money. Just keep things afloat and keep poisoning the minds of the youth. And keep saying that you're doing all of this in the name of the Lord. Because, why not? If Moon could help the CIA traffic in the name of the Lord, why couldn't Charlie Kirk's organization do that? The hell was Charlie Kirk doing in Korea?
Yeah.
Okay. This is my best guess. I think.
What do you think?
This is what Charlie Kirk said no to. I think this is what Charlie Kirk turned down. And I would imagine that if you're his lieutenants and you're thinking this is a lot of money, a big payday, you might betray him. You might betray him for that. So that's all I have for you today. Very long episode, but a very important episode to see how all of this comes together. We're going to take a break before I read some of your questions. Do you owe back taxes, or maybe you haven't filed tax?
Or maybe people aren't paying tax this year. People are changing their W-4s to exempt because it is the income tax strike. And that should have been taken off the books a long, long, long time ago. And it is voluntary, according to the law, if you look at the letter of the law. So she kind of summed that up. So he said, no, I disagree. I think it goes deeper and farther than that. I feel like that oversimplifies it because there's a lot more. And my guess is Charlie started to see a lot more of this stuff I think it goes farther and deeper than that. And it's too oversimplified. Mikey McCoy was with Charlie in Korea. I mean, yeah, I think that has part to do with that, and that's big money. I'd have to, how does that all tie in to Korea? Like everything that she's talked about here, all the strings, how are they attached? The incredible Mikey McCoy.
Smart equity loan, which is a simple, smart way to get your finances back on track without giving up your low mortgage rate.
She did
Unlike
less
a HELOC, which can fluctuate with the market, the smart equity loan
sponsors this
offers
time
a
too, I
fixed
feel
rate,
like.
so you'll have one predictable monthly payment.
I don't think we can know yet. Yeah.
And still keep your existing mortgage intact. There are no upfront fees to find out if you qualify, so call 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210.
Hey, Letters, you
or
can't
visit
fault a woman for her
americanfinancing.net/Owens.
cosmetic surgery, bruh. I've had cosmetic surgery. I gotta fight off age for as long as I can, and I had my hurrah. So now I'm good. I'll die younger looking than I am. Hopefully.
We've been under the spell of a psychological operation. That is what happened here. These people are not pastors. These people are soldiers. These people are not influencers. These people are soldiers. And the war is on us. The war is for your mind. And you can recognize this very simply, right? You cannot be a Christian and ignore what's happening in Gaza. You can't just pretend that that's okay. You cannot be a Christian and not pursue truth or try to demonize those who pursue it. I think that's self-evident, right? And yeah, I hope that this episode has woken a lot of people up. I hope people have been awakened to how severely all of us have been manipulated, myself included. I will never unsee this, and it is a cancer. It really is a cancer. If you'd like to support us, our independent work, because we are not receiving money from Moon Inc., we do have new merch on the
Or
website.
Israel.
Small team, but I feel like we're the little engine that could here. You can buy a hard
take
copy
guitar money,
autographed
though.
bundle now, available on our shop. Both of my books, Make 'em a Sandwich and Blackout, hand-signed by me. You can also be sure to check out our Spanish, Portuguese, and French channels now, link in the description. I'll read our top comment from yesterday's episode. Somebody wrote, this is really funny. Ben Shapiro is the type of guy that wakes you up to tell you that he's going to sleep. Absolutely hilarious. Yeah, they're doing more releasing content on my old Instagram channel. It is bonkers. It really is. But they are also just not relevant anymore. Vera Black Designs writes,
Sorry,
hey,
Ben.
Candace, so Dan Flood's hand signals and the guy in brown in the front row that pulled his sleeves at the exact time that Charlie's life was taken. Do you think there was something there, or is it a coincidence? I don't believe it was a coincidence. You're referring to Rick Cutler. Yes, he has a very complicated history. We haven't even gone into his history.
So in the beginning, she was saying she trusted that guy. So like there was people talking about those hand signals going on, the glasses, all of that. I always thought there was something to that. She didn't think it was. I didn't believe that part of what she said. I know she believed that. She trusted that individual. I always thought they were hand signals. So it looks like, I don't think Candace is one maybe to say outrightly she was mistaken, but it sounds like she's taking another look at this.
History of the DOD, his family's history. Listen, at the end of the day, I feel strongly that an operation to assassinate Charlie Kirk took place on that day, and people are implicated. That's the how we're still working on.
Yeah.
I think we've discovered the why. It makes the whole story make sense, what was going on. Charlie, the Doge, the offer from Bibi Netanyahu, the weird possession that overtook Christian Zionists to tell you that investigating this would be completely wrong. I feel like Moon Inc. passed his prologue on that one. Jennifer K. 8033 writes, Candace, have you seen or watched the work that John Bray has done regarding his theory on Charlie? It is pretty compelling. I pray for you and your family. Stay safe, and thank you for apologizing to the midget horse. I'm sorry to the midget horse again.
Cisco,
out of control. I was out
you
of
just
control.
said that.
But Ben is still fake and gay. Yes,
Always
I
will
have
be.
seen John Bray and the work that he's doing. I find it to be very compelling as well. And I have been communicating with him behind the scenes. There's so much happening, and there are so many rabbit holes to go under. And again, that's under the category of the how. And until I feel totally certain about how it was accomplished, I don't want to produce a theory because I'm under so much scrutiny. And if I say one
Yeah, so John Bray is the one who in case you guys don't know, I'm sure most of you do. So he's the one who's there was no gun. There's no bullet, guys. We all know that. Hopefully we all know that here. Magic Loon we sent out. So they won't get to hear that. They can go figure that truth out for themselves or not. But anyway, John Bray, so he's the one talking about, he did the impact analysis through computer and data that shows the impact to Charlie happened in his chest. That event was at his chest. We think that there was a battery and mic unit that shows on his chest. He had a magnet holding that unit. There was a energetic occurrence that happened somewhere to the mid of his body, sent that magnet shooting at the trajectory going toward his neck. You can see the magnet move, and shrapnel, we believe it exploded and went into his neck, which is what severed that artery, which caused the flesh to open and then that artery to start spurting out the blood. Okay, so that's what it looks like. There was no bullet, which is why we see nothing penetrate the back of his neck, no blood in the back, but that this magnetic battery pack exploded, hit his neck, killed him. And then in Tennessee, so there was a governmental contract made with a small explosive manufacturer in Tennessee. They had a contract. It was a very short-term contract for these small, I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, so then they were supposed to make this deliverable by a certain date, which was right before Charlie Kirk's death. And then a month later, the manufacturing facility who made this exploded in Tennessee, and everybody was killed, and the whole building, the whole facility is dust. So anyways, look up John Bray. He's done a phenomenal job, and I believe this is what happened.
And I get one thing wrong,
Horses
then
have
they
a
suddenly
feeling,
pretend,
too.
oh my God, so radical, everything's been debunked. The why I feel certain about. I suggested that it was trafficking when I started looking at the route of the Egyptian planes and how they were tracking Turning Point USA Faith and pastors for years. And this sort of infiltration and overtaking of Turning Point USA, that this faith just came on very suddenly. Like, that's not what we were doing. Charlie and I were going around talking about free markets and capitalism. I blinked and suddenly everything was about the Lord and everybody is talking about the Lord. And
and just in case you didn't know, Ian Carroll and the Real Baron podcast, they did an episode about it this week. It was Monday or Tuesday. They did an episode, and it really summarizes everything having to do with the whole battery and mic theory.
But spiritually, you're like, this doesn't feel like this is about truth or honesty or Jesus Christ at all. Actually.
Not at all.
It actually feels like you're being controlled by people who hate Jesus Christ, actually. Just a vibe that I get. This person writes, look into Paul E. Valley. I did already. Retired Army intel officer. He co-wrote the book Mind War with Michael Aquino, who was an Army intel psychological operations officer and an avowed Satanist. Because Paul Valley is also on the advisory board of Turning Point USA. Well, it doesn't matter as long as you got a big enough check. As we've learned, who cares if he worships Satan, okay? They're doing the kind of Christianity that can be bought, clearly. And yes, that is true, by the way, because I have looked into that. B. James, actually, I should add that, Skylar, to make a note to military connections here. because I do believe that he has some connection to Fort Huachuca as well, as we dive back into that. B. James writes, "Hi, Candace. My girlfriend and I listen to you every episode while we are at work, and then we talk about it when we get home. It would mean the world to her if you could just say a quick hello to Christian." Hi, Christian.
Hey,
I
Christian.
hope he didn't misspell your name. Is it Christina? Because it could have been Christina, and he could have just misfired there. Whether you are Christian or you are Christina or you are a Christian Christina, I would like to say hello to you and thank you guys for watching the episode every day. I really
Or
appreciate
Christina
that.
Christian.
All of you, I appreciate you all so much. I loved yesterday seeing Maggie's
Huachuca.
Instagram blow up. That was awesome. She deserves
Yeah.
that. I love that for her. Making the difficult
so
decision at the time,
cute.
but making the right decision. You should always be rewarded for that. Free Hour Speech writes, Turning Point USA. Nothing to see here. Yeah, never anything to see but pyrotechnics. Living for His Glory
And
Daily
glare
writes,
suits.
"This is why you have to look at Ferris and Dan Wilkes. Explains another reason for Ben Shapiro's push against you and the push to get into Turning Point. I'm just a mom who is not blind to the lies anymore, sending my research tonight." That's funny you say that because I had a dream. It was so clear. I promise you can actually fact check this with Village Crazy Lady, my girl Mel, over on X, because I woke my husband up. It was after Ben
Village
first attacked me,
Crazy
and I was like,
Lady
"That's
on
weird. I don't know
X.
what his investment is in this." And I had another vivid dream. The dream was so vivid. It was like, if you've ever seen Harry Potter and like when they have like the chessboard scene and they're having a wizard war, but they're playing a game of chess. It was basically a game of chess and Ben was one of the pieces. And what I saw in this dream, or how I felt, because there's no words in this, is that he was being sent out. And I literally woke my husband up at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I said, I just had a dream that we have to look into the Wilkes brothers. So weird that Ben, the reason he's being sent out is because the Wilkes brothers are freaking out about something. Swear to you. Mel, Village Crazy Lady, can show you the text. I then woke up and I woke up and I got started, and Mel messaged me and she said something about the Seven Mountain Mandate, and then she mentioned the Wilkes brothers, and I was like, that is so crazy that you are messaging me this, because I had a dream at 4 a.m. They were not on my mind at all. I don't actually really know anything about them. It's not like they've ever been like a part of the Daily Wire operations or anything. But they do fund PragerU. They do fund Turning I said Turning Point USA. They do fund PragerU, and they do fund the Daily Wire, and they are not, evangelical Christians. They fund the mega churches. They started Rob McCoy's church. Actually, they funded it. So that was interesting, which is what she was telling me. I looked into it, and all that's true. Anyways, I know I'm not allowed to talk about my dreams before everyone starts freaking out. But I'm going to still talk about my dreams, especially when they're that vivid. And I've never dreamed more vividly and more precisely than since Charlie Kirk has been assassinated. It's unbelievable. Like it was disturbing me in the weeks after his death, how vivid the dreams were, how I was being woken up from my
Seven
sleep.
Mountain
I
Mandate.
imagine this is exactly what Charlie was going through in 2018 when he was having visions that he was going to die. That's kind of what's happening to me now about different things that have happened in this investigation, or, things that were happening with Charlie. Anyways, for whatever that's worth. And just reminding you guys, as before we sign off, that we have a 2-hour book club tomorrow. We will not have an episode, but we will have a 2-hour book club, because we're going back to not doing Friday episodes unless we do an occasional thing that we toss you. And that's to make up for the book club that we missed at the end of last year. So it will be at 4:00 p.m. Eastern. If you have not signed up to the book club, you should. We get much deeper into these topics, and you can do that by just going to CandaceOwens.com. Beyond that, you guys, we will see you on Monday.
Hi, Candace. Wow. I love it when she goes long. I have to run because, as you can see, I'm shaking because I do need a bio break, but I did want to stop sharing this. So about that, the whole thing of marrying church and politics and all that, it reminded me of this thing that I had posted a couple months ago. But just to leave you with the parting thought, and thank you so much for being here, everyone. I love seeing you here, and I'm honored and privileged that you joined me, and I appreciate you subscribing and being here and sharing your thoughts. But here, I'm going to share this with you, and then we'll head out. So, the fusion of faith and politics, psychological and cultural power. Faith moves the heart, politics moves the world. Combine them, and you get the ability to mobilize entire populations with moral purpose. That's why this fusion is so intoxicating for those in power. It turns obedience into virtue. It transforms war into a holy duty. It rebrands oppression into divine order. And people don't just follow orders, they believe in them. That's nuclear level influence. And it's true. Anyway, thank you so much, Letters, Cisco, you, Julia. I don't know if you're still on here, but I appreciate you being here, Jeff, and everybody else. And please subscribe, hit the notifications bell, hit all of them so that you can get all notifications and we can come back together here. I will not be on tomorrow. I'm going to continue taking the day to compile what I'm working on for you guys. And follow me on the socials if you're there too. Here we go. Thanks so much. See you soon. See you next time. See you next week.